You crack one open almost every morning. You don't think about it. You just reach into the fridge, grab one, and go. But here's a question that will completely change how you see that egg. Out of the millions of animals on this planet, birds, reptiles, fish, amphibians, why is it that we almost exclusively eat the egg of one single bird? The chicken, not the duck, not the crocodile, not the frog, not the snake, just the chicken. And the answer isn't what you think. It's not because other animal eggs are poisonous. It's not because they taste disgusting. It's not even because chickens are special. The real reason is a story about how one species, not the chicken but us, made a decision thousands of years ago that quietly shaped everything you eat today. Stay till the end. Because the last part reveals something unsettling about how little control you actually have over the choices you think are yours. Let's start with a simple experiment. Imagine you have never seen a chicken in your life. You have never been to a grocery store. You are a human being living 10,000 years ago, and you are hungry. You walk through tall grass, you hear rustling. You find a nest. And inside that nest are eggs. You eat them. That's it. That's where this whole story begins. Ancient humans ate every egg they could find. Bird eggs, reptile eggs, anything small enough to crack and rich enough to fill their stomach. There was no preference. There was no brand loyalty. There was just survival. So what changed? About 8 to 10,000 years ago, something remarkable happened in Southeast Asia. Humans stopped just eating chickens. They started living with them. They began controlling them. They began breeding them. And slowly, generation by generation, the chicken became the most domesticated bird in human history. But here's what's fascinating. The early chicken was not a good egg layer. The wild ancestor of the chicken, called the red jungle fowl, laid maybe 12 eggs a year. 12. That's barely one per month. A far cry from the egg machines we have today. So humans did something extraordinary. Over thousands of years, they selectively bred chickens to lay more and more eggs. They kept the best layers. They discarded the rest. They repeated this process across hundreds of generations of birds. And the result? A modern hen lays up to 300 eggs per year. Let that number sink in. 300 eggs from a single bird in a single year. No other bird comes close. A duck lays maybe 200. A quail lays roughly 150. An ostrich lays between 40 and 100. And most wild birds lay somewhere between 10 and 30. The chicken didn't win because it was the tastiest or the most nutritious. It won because we turned it into a biological egg-producing machine over 8,000 years of selective pressure. And once that machine was built, there was no going back. But that's only half the story, because breeding alone doesn't explain everything. There's another reason the chicken dominated so completely, and it comes down to something almost embarrassingly practical. The shell. Pick up a chicken egg and knock it against a surface. It cracks cleanly. It has a hard, protective calcium shell. That shell means you can stack eggs. You can store them. You can transport them for days without refrigeration. You can pack them into crates and ship them across continents. Now imagine trying to do that with a reptile egg. A snake egg has a soft, leathery shell. It collapses under pressure. It needs to stay in a humid environment or it dries out. It's fragile, hard to handle, and nearly impossible to store in large quantities. A frog egg is even worse. It's basically a cluster of jelly. It falls apart the moment you pick it up. It needs to stay in water. It offers nothing that would make it useful for mass food production. The chicken egg, by pure accident of biology, came with built-in packaging. And in a world before refrigerators, before plastic wrap, before logistics, that was everything. So now you have a bird that lays 300 eggs a year, with a shell strong enough to survive being stacked, stored, and shipped. That's already a powerful advantage. But here's the part that most people completely overlook. The economics. A chicken is small. It eats very little. It needs almost no space compared to a cow, a pig, or a goat. You can keep dozens of them in a single yard. They are cheap to feed, fast to raise, and easy to manage. The cost to produce a single chicken egg is among the lowest of any animal protein on the planet. Now compare that to an ostrich. An ostrich egg is the equivalent of roughly 24 chicken eggs in volume. On paper, that sounds efficient. But an ostrich is enormous. It needs a huge amount of space. It requires specialist handling. It can be aggressive and dangerous. It lays between 40 and 100 eggs per year under ideal conditions. And the infrastructure to farm ostriches at scale simply does not exist in most of the world. The math never worked, and so the ostrich egg stayed a curiosity, a novelty, something you see at a farmer's market and photograph, but never actually buy. But here's what's fascinating. There's still something deeper going on, something that has nothing to do with biology or economics and everything to do with how human beings actually make decisions. Think about what you ate as a child. You probably didn't choose it. Your parents cooked what their parents cooked, and their parents cooked what was available, affordable, and normal in their world. Food culture doesn't get passed down through logic. It gets passed down through repetition, ritual, and memory. The chicken egg became the global standard so early in human civilization that by the time most societies were forming their food cultures, the alternative never had a chance to compete. And here is where the story gets genuinely strange, because the world does eat other eggs, just not your world, or at least not the world you were raised in. In East Asia, duck eggs are a genuine food staple. Century eggs, duck eggs preserved for weeks or months in a mixture of clay and ash, are considered a delicacy in China. They look nothing like what you would recognize as food. The whites turn dark and translucent. The yolks turn green, and they taste rich, complex, and deeply savory in a way a chicken egg never could. In Japan and Korea, quail eggs appear in convenience stores on top of rice dishes, skewered and sold as street food. They are smaller than a chicken egg, more delicate, slightly richer in flavor. And in countries where people grew up eating them, they feel just as normal and obvious as a carton of white eggs feels to you. In Mexico, escamoles have been eaten since the time of the Aztecs. They are the eggs of a specific ant species called Lyometopum apiculatum. They are harvested from underground nests in the roots of agave plants. They look like tiny white grains of rice. They taste buttery, nutty, and slightly earthy. They are expensive. They are seasonal. And in Mexico City, they appear on the menus of upscale restaurants served with guacamole and tortillas. And then there is caviar. Fish roe, specifically the eggs of the beluga sturgeon, became one of the most expensive foods in human history. A single kilogram of beluga caviar can cost more than $20,000. It is eaten in the smallest possible quantities, served on tiny spoons, paired with champagne, and considered the ultimate symbol of luxury. These are all eggs, eaten by millions of people around the world. And to the people eating them, they are not exotic. They are not strange. They are just food. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the chicken egg's dominance in your kitchen is not natural. It is not inevitable. It is not written into biology or nutrition or human taste. It is a story that started in Southeast Asia 10,000 years ago, that moved through ancient trade routes, that locked in when Western food systems industrialized in the 19th and 20th centuries. That became so deeply embedded in infrastructure, habit, and culture that by the time you were born, the question was never even asked. You reach for a chicken egg because your parents did, because their parents did. Because somewhere far back in the chain of human history, a decision was made, for reasons of efficiency and practicality and accident, and then repeated so many times it stopped feeling like a decision at all. And it might be the strangest part of all, because here is what this story is really about. It's not about chickens, it's not even about eggs, it's about how the choices that define your daily life, what you eat, what you reach for without thinking, what feels normal and natural and obvious, or if were almost never chosen by you. They were chosen by ancient farmers 10,000 years ago, optimizing for survival. They were chosen by the biology of a shell. They were chosen by economics and infrastructure that existed before you were born. You wake up, you crack open an egg, and in that moment you feel like you made a decision. But that decision was made for you, thousands of years ago, by people who had never heard of a grocery store, a supermarket, or a morning routine. The chicken didn't win on merit alone. It won because history moved in one direction, and everything else got left behind. And every single morning, without thinking about it, you repeat that history. In your kitchen, at 6 in the morning, before you've even had your coffee. The next time you crack that egg open, the next time you reach into the fridge without thinking, that tiny, automatic, ordinary act contains 8,000 years of human history, compressed into a single shell that you'll finish in under 2 minutes and never think about again.